Alright, hello and welcome back. In today's video we're going to be doing a follow-up on that orange ARTR I did in not the last video but the one previous to that. The slider I got on eBay. So I worked on it for about a week on and off, and here's our final result. So I will go through it, do a full breakdown on what I did and what it turned out like. So we'll start off, I guess, with the body. It's the most obvious thing. Actually, one more thing before we dive into the body. I wanted to say that the idea with this project overall was I wanted to use parts I had on hand. I didn't want to order anything or get anything special for the truck. So I was trying to use as much as I could off the original truck plus stuff I had. So with that being said, the body was originally a pre-painted green RTR body that came off of the RTC you seen earlier on in my channel, one of the first videos I did. It was trimmed rather poorly. Back here was normal, but up front, the fender wells were cut off not very nicely. The nose was only partially cut out. It had the hood scoop, had a small square cut in the center with a knife, so it had horrible edges. And it had some of the decals peeled off. Overall, it wasn't in great shape. The other piece, the bottom foldable side skirts were cut off. That was kind of a bummer for me. So it wasn't really usable in any of my nice trucks, so I figured I'd try my best to repurpose it for this truck. And I think it turned out pretty cool. It's kind of got like a Halo / Predator franchise vibe, and I'm not mad at it. So basically what I did was I retrimmed the front, trimmed it up higher so I could get a nicer arch in these corners. And then due to the bottom piece missing, to try to get it to look low again, I raised up the cut here higher than it normally would be. As I showed you there a second ago, I fully cut out the nose piece around the grill. And then I took a Dremel and properly opened up the hood scoop. It's not something I would normally do, but since it was already there, I at least sharpened up the lines on it, so that made that look a lot cleaner. The next thing I did, after getting it trimmed nicely, was to basically, I sanded the whole thing down on the outside just to give it some texture, and I left the original window stickers in as masks, and I peeled off any remaining stickers, and then I painted it with basically, it's almost like a primer gray. It's polycarbonate paint, but that's kind of what it looks like. And then I added some black accents to it. Following that, I sanded the windows from the inside with about 600 grit wet sand. Sanded those till they were clear, including the sunroof pieces there. And or T-tops, I guess it would be. And the back windows. So sanded all those through right clear, and then did maybe 3 or 4 very light coats of Tamiya tint or shade, whatever the heck they call it, just to darken them up and give them a bit more gloss again, because they come out pretty hazy when you sand them like that. So yeah, that's the final result. I think it turned out pretty cool. Some of the neat things, I think, is the old graphics kind of shone through when I layered the gray and black. And because the Axial logo is actually in the mold here, that shines through, which looks pretty cool. And yeah, it turned out really cool. I really like its character, so quite happy with it. But back to the truck. So, for starters, you guys remember it had those hideous skid plates on the bottom. Those came off, went directly in the trash. And I ended up actually replacing the housings. The housings were in pretty bad shape, and I had these laying around. This is a brand new OEM Axial housing, and this is an AliExpress, I'm going to say aluminum, but it's probably not really. It's like pot metal. But it's a copycat of the original housing, just done in metal. So I did that to add weight in the front, and I wanted to kind of test them out, because I got a couple of these and I've never got to use them, so... the links are all original still. I retained all the original links that came with the slider. I did the Bic pen mod on the front, the acrylic tube. makes those slipperier. It slide over obstacles nicer. And I did the TIE Fighter mod to the skid to inboard the links. And I 4-linked the rear and front uppers as well, but we'll have a better view of that when I tip it on its side. But I think we can do that now. That's kind of all we need to see from the bottom. Let's move over to the front here. So you'll notice up front, no drag link, no tie rod. I did the Axial BTA steer kit. You can see it back there. There's a better view of it. I had that laying around. It was in pretty decent complete shape, but not perfect, so I figured it was a good choice to use on this truck. I also added the Axial aluminum C's with the adjustable caster at the same time. So basically the front axle is completely metal. It's got the metal housing, C-hubs, high steer knuckles, and then the BTA kit. I modified the front plate on the BTA kit. It's kind of a sacrifice or vanity, but I don't love when the batteries are mounted up on the front axle of these trucks. I know it was really common in the day to do that for weight, but honestly, it just drives me nuts how they look. So I kind of gave this a little cut for style, and then I just run the battery up there on the chassis like normal. For a servo, it's got a Yippin Amazon 70 kg, which is definitely not 70 kgs, but at 7.4 volts, I think it's probably good for 35 or 40. Mostly picked that because it was the only black metal case one I had, and it was going for the look, you know? Speaking of going for the look, I kept the Hot Racing CVDs the truck had, but I sanded off. You can still see a little bit there on the inside edge. I sanded off the green anodizing on both just because that would have looked horrible. Took those apart, cleaned and greased all the parts to them, so they're nice and smooth. And with the BTA kit and the high steer knuckles, the truck is actually capable of not bad angle. You can see it'll stuff tire right into the shocks. Nothing like a modern truck for angle, but better than factory, so I'm pretty happy with that. Well, it was apart. The axles also got all new bearings, and a through pin pinion was added to the front. On the back of the truck, it was a, what did I put in there? I believe I think a Boom Racing underdrive, so 4313, which gives you the through pin and then the better gear ratio. All new bearings back here as well, the new housing. Lockouts are original, and this is an SCX10 4-link bar, which if you notice the front also has. I had to actually modify the front one a bit to get the BTA to clear. It's a bit of a tricky situation. It's actually quite the tricky situation getting that BTA to be happy. So on the note of the BTA as well, I did mention I 4-linked the truck front and back. Back was no big deal. Added that SCX10 upper mount, and then we extended the links a little bit with just some different rod ends and spacers to get the pinion angle good. But up front, because your servo horn, as you can see, gets really close to the to the 4-link there, I had to actually bend these and then play with some different rod ends, some tilts there and stuff just to get everything to fit. So that was a bit of a fight. You'll also notice the truck is not on springs. It was a choice due to the BTA as well, because of the servo horn also going right into where the springs would be and hitting the springs. So on the topic of shocks, I actually took the 4-inch shocks that were on the truck as it came, which wouldn't have been original to it anyways. And these are original 120mm shocks that would have came on an ARTR. They just have the upgraded Axial aluminum body. And then internally, they have East End machining springs. So there's a firm spring above the piston, and then the half-length spring underneath the piston in soft. So that gives it a bit extra droop when you need it, but it doesn't make it so it fully droops out just under the weight, basically. So that gives it quite a redonkulous amount of flex. As you can see, when you have 120 mil shock that are leaned in that far, you're going to get a lot of travel. Okay, back to drivetrain. I think that kind of covers suspension and stuff. You'll notice the truck has a Stealth X siding in there, a white one with the orange motor plate. I had a Cattleman that I parted out, so I figured that kind of went with the color scheme, and kind of cool to put a Stealth X in an old Ax10. So with the combination of the 6% underdrive in the gearbox and the 10% underdrive in the rear axle, the truck's sitting at net 16%. And we're running the 87 tooth spur gear that comes with the Stealth X and the 14 tooth pinion that comes with the original Ax10. So that gives the truck an overall final drive ratio in the front of approximately 48-1. And then with 16% underdrive, it's approximately 57-1 in the back. So it's got pretty good gear reduction, and I'd say a nice balance of underdrive. Definitely helps this truck turn, being that the steering angle isn't, out of this world. And I guess all that really leaves is electronics, which we already talked about the servo. I'm just running a FlySky GT5 in it, and I had this Fusion Pro that keeps getting switched from bin to go in builds, and it's never ended up anything, so I slammed it in here because I had it. A 1200 or an 1800 would probably be a better fit, but I had this, so that's what she's got. It makes it a little spicy in the top end. And then for wheels and tires, we've got none other than the infamous Hot Bodies Sedona's white dot compound. These are sweet tires. Definitely excited to try these out. I've run the Rovers before with really good results, so I can't see the Sedona being any worse than those. They're sitting on Crawler Innovations dual deuces. I'm actually running a medium outer in the front due to the excess weight of the metal axle, and because it's pretty light in the back, I'm running soft outers in the back, so kind of balances it out. And then on a set of Amazon 2.2 bead locks. So admittedly, this is the only part that I broke my rule on. I was trying to do this truck fully in-house. Once I decided on the gray theme for the body, I wanted the wheels to match. A little picky about the look, so I did actually order these wheels. That was it. Everything else I had. So yeah, that's the eBay ARTR, and I think it turned out pretty cool. I'm pretty excited about the body. It's definitely got a cool old school vibe to it, with a couple small modern touches. So definitely looking forward to getting out on the rocks eventually, and maybe we'll have some videos of that. So catch you guys in the next one, where we're looking at another vintage Axial of some sort. Peace.